Hi everyone, welcome back. I'm Di, and today I'm bringing you 22 series I'd like to read from in 2022. So 2021 taught me that I need lists to be able to refer to when I don't know what I want to read. That is the main reason why I put together my TBR game this year. But even having that, it was very difficult sometimes for me to choose books to read to fulfill those prompts. So in preparation for 2022, I am making several lists to be able to refer to in the event that something comes up on my TBR game, or I've read all of my TBR game books and I just don't know what to pick up next. I have these lists that I'm preparing to help me so that I don't end up not reading, because that is definitely something that has happened between 2020 and 2021 where I just didn't know what I wanted to read, and so I ended up not reading at all, and I don't want that to happen again. So this is one of those lists that I'm preparing to help me out in case I have one of those times where I feel like I don't know what I want to read. So I have separated this list into 3 sections. I picked 10 series that I want to continue. So these are series that I feel like I know enough about the series books that I have already read that I don't need to reread any of them in order to continue. Then I picked 10 books which are from series that I feel like I need to restart because it's either been a really, really long time since I've read them and I just don't remember, or I just want that experience of reading through the entire series in a marathon type of way. And then I picked 2 series that are series that I'd like to start. Those were the hardest for me because obviously there are a ton of series that I like to start. I am a serial series starter. And I'm not so great about finishing them, but I suppose that the 20 that I have pulled before this are going to help me in hopefully finishing series. That's definitely something I try to work on every year. 2021 has kind of been a year where I didn't really finish a lot of series, and I started quite a few. But yeah, that's okay. That's okay. So I do have Goodreads up in front of me. And so I will be referring to my tabs quite often. Most of these books I do have, and I will let you know which ones I do. For ease of filming this video, I'm just going to put the pictures up on the screen. So let's get started with my list of 22 series I'd like to read from in 2022. So the first series I'd like to read from and continue, because these first 10 are series that I'd like to continue, is the Talon series by Julie Kagawa. I need to read the 3rd book, which is Soldier. This series is basically about dragon shifters and a war between humans and these dragon shifters, and we're following a girl for the most part who has a twin brother, and there's kind of conflict between the 2 siblings as well. I'm going to give like really, really short synopsis, if not just tags, because some of these I don't remember a lot of. And so, yes, I have really enjoyed this series in the past. I definitely feel like I know enough to just continue with the series instead of having to restart. So that is the first series I'd like to read from in 2022. The next series is going to be the Dorothy Must Die series by Danielle Page. I am up to the 3rd book again, which is Yellow Brick War. Again, another series that I'd like to just continue because I do remember quite a bit of the first 2 books. This one is kind of a Wizard of Oz retelling. Not really, kind of a Wizard of Oz kind of sequel, because it's already past where Dorothy has visited Oz, and we're following another character who visits Oz. So that is definitely another one that has been on my mind lately. And I'd like to revisit that series and hopefully complete it. And the third series is going to be the Robotech series, First Generation by Jack McKinney. I am up to the fourth book now, which is Battle Hymn. This is, again, that first arc of Robotech, which is one that I'm very, very familiar with. And I do own this one. I told you I was going to tell you if I own them. So the Talon Saga, I don't own at all. I do need to borrow that from the library. Dorothy Must Die, the third book, I do own. And then Robotech, I also own. I own Battle Hymn, which is the fourth book, digitally. It's something that I'm very familiar with. There are always little Easter eggs that are not in the animated show that I'm familiar with. And maybe some additional information expanding on things that have happened in the animation. So I really am looking forward to continuing that series in 2022. The next series I'd like to continue is Anne of Green Gables by Lucy Maud Montgomery. I am up to book 5, which is Anne's House of Dreams. I did read book 4 earlier this year, and it kind of put me in a funk, to be honest. Definitely wasn't the Anne I know and love in book 4. She was very different. So that's kind of what put the brakes on me reading the rest of that series. But it is a series that I really, really want to read through once in my life. So book 5, Anne's House of Dreams, is on this list. And I do own a copy of that series. I actually have the whole thing in a box set. The next series I'd like to continue is Fallen by Lauren Kate. I am up to book 4, which is Rapture. And for me, I'm going to consider book 4 the last book in this series because the 5th book is a spin-off on one of the characters, and it doesn't follow the couple that we've been following for the first 4 books. So I'm going to cap this series off at book 4. This is a reincarnated fallen angel story, and his many reincarnations falling in love with the same girl over and over and over again, and they're kind of cursed, and so they never are able to live happily together. And yeah, so this is a series that I really enjoyed. The first book, the second and the third books kind of got whinier and whinier as we got through them. I really disliked the main female character's voice. And I had been listening to this series on audiobook. So I will be reading book 4 in a physical copy to hopefully curb the whiny voice. I do not own this one, so I will need to find a copy from my library, hopefully, or buy a used copy to finish out that series. But like I said, if I read book 4, I'm going to consider the series complete. And so I definitely want to do that. It's been something that I've been intending to do for quite a while and just haven't. And it needs to go. I need to finish it. So following on the Fallen Angels kind of theme, the next series is the Hidden Wings series by Cameo Renee. I am up to book 3, which is Tethered Wings. And this is an angels versus demons kind of series. It does have kind of a love triangle, which kind of put me off reading this series. But this series has 5 books, and I've had the 3rd book borrowed from Kindle Unlimited on my Kindle Unlimited shelf for ages. So I need to get to it, and I need to finish out this series. I really, really enjoyed books 1 and 2. But then at the end of book 2 kind of introduced the possible love triangle, and I just stopped. But I feel like I'm ready to continue with this series. I'm really curious to see where it's going to go. I have tried to pick it up 1 or 2 times in the past, and I just got distracted by other books. And so, yes, I do want to continue this series in 2022 and finally return that book that I've had borrowed from Kindle Unlimited forever. So, yes. The next series I'd like to continue is the Mediator series by Meg Cabot. You know that I have read a couple of these books in 2021. This is a kind of psychic medium helping spirits pass over. And then there's always like a mystery to be solved. I would consider it a cozy mystery. Our amateur sleuth is the medium and is also in high school, so it's YA. But there was just something that happened in book 4 that, again, I would have gone on to book 5 right away. I do enjoy the series, but something at the end of book 4 happened that I just didn't quite jive with. And it's kind of making me question where the rest of this series is going to go. And so I only have 3 books left in this series. I do own books 5 and 6. I'm not sure if the 7th book is actually part of this series or if it's like kind of spin-off-ish. I don't know, but definitely 5 and 6 I want to get to. The next series I'd like to continue is the Karen Vale series by Alan Jacobson. I have read books 1 and 2 of this series for March Mystery Madness in previous rounds, and I've been really intending on continuing this series, and I just haven't. This is an FBI profiler series, and at the end of book 2, there was a cliffhanger, and I really, really want to know what happens, and I just haven't picked up the 3rd volume. I just don't understand why. But this is one that I'll definitely need to borrow from my library. I know my library has all of them, so that's not going to be an issue, and I definitely want to continue with book 3, which is Velocity. Did I say that? I don't remember. And find out what happens to that cliffhanger at the end of book 2. The next series I'd like to continue is the Nora Gavin series by Erin Hart. This is a series that I read several years ago. The first book is Haunted Ground, I believe, and it follows a archaeologist and a pathologist. So Nora Gavin is actually the pathologist, and she's American, and she teams up with Cormac, who is an Irish archaeologist, and they investigate bog bodies. It was such a fascinating thing when I was reading the first book, and I read the second book, and to be honest, I didn't enjoy that one as much as the first one. Now, both of those books have different cases that they are focusing on. There is kind of an underlying storyline in regards to Nora and trying to figure out what happened to her sister. And then obviously with Nora and Cormac working together and their relationship. But I feel like I can continue with book 3 without having to go back and reread. I will definitely find out when I start reading book 3 if I feel lost and need to go back. But as of right now, I'm intending on just continuing with book 3. This is a 4-book series, and I do own books 3 and 4, book 3 being False Mermaid. The last of the series that I want to continue in 2022 would be the Sam Markham series by Gregory Fernaro. This is a duology. The first book in this duology is The Sculptor. The book that I need to read is The Impaler. And so this one follows an FBI agent who's kind of retired, and he gets pulled back into investigating in The Sculptor. And it follows a serial killer who leaves his victims as sculptures. In The Impaler, he is trying to find a serial killer who is literally impaling his victims like Vlad the Impaler did. And I had started this book several years ago, but at the time it was just too gruesome for me. And when I picked it up, I just wasn't ready for that. And so I put it down and I haven't revisited it. But I really enjoyed The Sculptor. It's definitely one that I think about quite often when I think about continuing that series, because it was just that enjoyable. So yes, this one's going to be definitely gruesome. In fact, the very first chapter of this book if I remember correctly, is a killing scene. It is from the perspective of the victim, actually, as he's being impaled. And so, yes, I told you it was gruesome. It's gruesome. And so I am still very curious about this one. It's one that I think about picking up often and just haven't. So I need to finish this duology. I only have this one book, and I need to see how it's all going to end. So those are the 10 series I'd like to continue. The next 10 series are series that I feel like I need to restart in order to continue. So the first of these series is the Fever series by Karen Marie Moning. The first book in this series is Dark Fever. I do own a copy of this on Kindle. When I had gotten it, it was a free download, and I have read this one. I can actually tell you exactly when I picked it up, because I had picked it up when we were at my office and we had a power outage, and I just happened to have this book downloaded to my phone. And so while we were waiting for the power to come back, I just decided to start reading. And it really is one that I had enjoyed. And at the time, I think only 3 or 4 books were out in this series. There have been several more, and I believe the series is now complete. But it is a urban fantasy mystery series, because our main character is trying to figure out what happened to her sister, which kind of sounds like something else I talked about. But in this one, she's trying to find out about what happened to her sister, and she kind of gets introduced to some things she didn't think existed. Like I said, it's urban fantasy. There are paranormal creatures and things in it, but I don't really remember what happened in this one. I only remember that I enjoyed it. And so I do need to revisit this book so that I can continue. I believe my mom's read about 4 of the books in this series. 3 or 4, however many were out at the time. But she hasn't picked up any more either, because we just haven't bought any more. So I do have, I think, 4 of these. And whatever we have, my mom has read. I've only read the first one. I'm kind of hoping my friend Janaea over at Live a Thousand Lives is going to be doing a series read of this in 2022. She's made mention of the fact that she wants to do a series read next year. And I know, like, earlier in 2021, she was talking about wanting to do this for the Fever series. So I'm hoping that that is what she's talking about, and that she will be hosting a read along for this series. But yes, definitely one that I am interested in restarting and continuing with. The next series is the Savannah Vampire series by Raven Hart. The first book in the series is The Vampire's Seduction. And this is a vampire mystery kind of romance, I guess, series, which if you know me at all, you know that I don't read very much romance. But I don't really remember there being romance. There are definite tags for romance on this Goodreads page, but I don't really remember romance from this story. I do remember that vampires are created a different way in this series, and that there is definitely a mystery element to it, but I don't remember anything else. This is a series that I had intended on restarting in 2021. In fact, I prepared for it by purchasing all of the books in this series at the end of 2020, early 2021, because I was like, this is a series I want to read this year, and have I done it? No. So I do have them all, and I really, really want to reread and continue this series because I remember enjoying this one a lot. Fun fact, I actually bought this one and the second book in the series at Borders. So that's how long it's been. But I remember really enjoying it. So definitely want to check that one out again and see what I think. The next series is one that I have restarted twice and just never continued. And I don't know why, because I really, really enjoyed it. It is The Castor Chronicles by Cami Garcia and Margaret Stohl. The first book in the series is Beautiful Creatures. And this is a young adult kind of witchy paranormal book. It follows a family that I believe has some kind of like curse on them, and they need to decide if they're going to be good or evil witches. At least that's what I remember of the series, is that they need to decide by their like 16th birthday or something if they're going to be good or evil. I really enjoyed the first book. I don't remember much of the second. And I never read the third and fourth. So I do have all of them. My mom purchased them for me several Christmases ago, and I never read them. So I need to restart this series and then continue and finish it. It's definitely one that I've been thinking about for a while. And so I need to get that done. The next series is the Aisling Gray series by Katie McAllister. This is a Dragon Slayer kind of paranormal romance with some comedy. There was a little bit of mystery in it. When I had read this in 2012, I was listening to it on audiobook, and the narrator was getting on my nerves. I did end up finishing it, and I did enjoy it, but I never continued because the narrator got on my nerves. So I do actually have a physical copy of this book now, and I think I have a few others because I found them at a library book sale for like $0.25. And so, yeah. This one has a little bit of a mystery element. There's definitely dragon shifters, and that's all I remember from it. But it was really funny. I remember that I was driving home from work while listening to it playing in my car, and I was just laughing while I was in traffic. So it was a good time, especially being in traffic, but I don't remember any of the details. So I do want to see what I think about this series now. And again, it is labeled as romance, but I don't remember that too much. I remember more there being like a mysterious element regarding some kind of artifact or something. I could be completely wrong, but I think that one has to do with an artifact. And so, yes, would love to reread that one physically and see what I think, and then hopefully continue it. The next series I'd like to restart is the Creepy Hollow series by Rachel Morgan. The first book in this series is The Fairy Guardian. I do have a copy of several books in this series in a bind-up from Amazon. I believe I purchased it on my Kindle. And I had gotten this first book as a free download when it was just released. Ben Alderson was really promoting this one when it came out, and he was saying such glorious things about it that I decided to pick it up right away, and I did really enjoy it. This one has to do with Fae, and there is a kind of a mystery element to it. It wasn't really strong. I would say this one is kind of more adventure-y, but again, it's been a while since I've read this one. It was back in 2015, so again, it's been a while since I have read that one. Definitely want to reread and continue, especially because I own it and it has to do with the Fae. And Fae is something that I haven't read a lot from or of in a while. And so I definitely want to reconnect with those types of books. You'll notice that a lot of these books in this list are supernatural, paranormal, Fae, and it's something that I've gotten away from recently, and I don't know why, but definitely another series that I'd like to restart and hopefully continue. Along the same vein, the next series is The Hollows by Kim Harrison. This first book in the series is Dead Witch Walking. I have a copy of this one. It was a free download on Kindle many years ago. This one, again, urban fantasy, vampires, and there is another mysterious element to this, if I remember correctly. It's been quite a while since I've read it. 2010. I finished reading it in 2010, so it's been a long time. I even remember that I was on vacation when I was reading this one. I'm pretty sure we were we were elsewhere for a clogging competition, actually. Um, so yes, definitely remember reading it. Don't remember anything about it besides the fact that there was some kind of battle, um, where our main character was battling some other paranormal creatures. And so, yes, definitely want to recheck this one out and see if it's something that I want to continue. The next series is, I would say it's a cozy mystery series. It's not listed as such on Goodreads, but it's the Fred the Mermaid series by Mary Janice Davidson. This book follows a mermaid, and in this first book, which is Sleeping with the Fishes, there is some kind of toxic spill in the ocean, and Fred helps to figure out who the culprit is. That much I do remember. There was definitely a hilarious scene that has stuck with me since I've read this one, and it's always been one that I wanted to continue and I just never did. It's definitely hilarious. It is listed as being kind of comedy humor. There is a little bit of a romantic element if I remember correctly, but yes, definitely one I've been thinking about recently. It's a 3-book series, and I do have all 3 of the books, and so I have no excuse for not reading it. But I definitely want to, because from what I remember of this series, or this book, it was hilarious, and I really need to find out what's going to happen next. The next series I'd like to restart is Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children by Ransom Riggs. The first book is the same name as the series, and when I read this one, I believe it was for the Book Buddy-a-thon many, many years ago. Don't remember, but I was listening to it on audiobook, and I don't feel like that was the best way to consume this story. This one follows a home of children who have like abilities, and this guy who kind of finds them, if I remember correctly. I know I'm not explaining that very well. There is a movie. I enjoyed the movie. I enjoyed the book when I listened to it, but obviously because there are a lot of pictures in this book that add to the ambiance of the story, I don't feel like I got like everything that I could have out of that read. So I definitely want to reread this book physically, and I do have a copy, and continue on and see where the story goes, because it was one that I was very interested in when I read it. But the subsequent installments weren't out. And again, this is another reason why I don't read series as they're publishing, because then I forget about them. So I do need to restart this one. The next series I need to restart is the Grey Walker series by Kat Richardson. This one is a supernatural kind of urban fantasy mystery where we have our main character who gets into an accident at the beginning of the first book and survives the accident, but because she was technically dead, if I remember correctly, for a few minutes, when she wakes up, she has the ability to see like dead people or spirits, which come out from like this gray like mist or something. I don't remember much. I remember really enjoying this one when I listened to it, and again, this was one that I had listened to. I do have a physical copy, so it's definitely one that I'd like to continue. I remember things getting really like ramped up as far as the mystery element goes. I think in book 2, because I think I've only read 2 books in this series. But I don't remember any specifics, and I don't remember a lot. But I do remember that I enjoyed this one enough that I've collected several of the books in this series when I saw them at library book sales. So I do need to restart this series and see what I think about it. And hopefully continue it because I do remember enjoying this one quite a bit. The last of the series that I need to restart in order to continue is the Anita Blake series by Laurell K. Hamilton. This is a super long series. The first book in this series is Guilty Pleasures, and it's about a vampire hunter. I believe there's some romantic elements in it, but I've only read the first book in this series. Like I said, it's a super long series. It's still ongoing as far as I know. When I had read Guilty Pleasures, I didn't really enjoy it that much, but I heard that the later books in the series get better and better, and so I do need to reread this one and continue through to at least the next few and see how I feel about the series, because I do own several of them. Again, pick them up at library book sales, and if it's not going to be a series that I enjoy, I can get rid of them. So yeah, I need to restart the series and definitely reconnect with how I feel about this one and continue it so that I can figure out whether or not to keep these books on my shelves. So that's now number 20. The next two series are series that I'd like to start. And the first of these series is the Heroes of Olympus series by Rick Riordan. This is the sequel series to the Percy Jackson and the Olympian series, which I have read. I just never read the subsequent series. And I definitely want to do that. I've been talking about this one with my daughter, though. And I think we are going to reread Percy Jackson together and then continue through to the Heroes of Olympus. I'm not sure if she's read the Heroes of Olympus. She just told me she finished it. I've never read it, but she is interested in rereading. So we will be reading Percy Jackson, and then I will be reading for the first time the Heroes of Olympus series. So this is definitely one that will happen in 2022. And so I'm really looking forward to it. I really enjoyed Percy Jackson, and I want to see what more there is in this world. And so, yes, really excited for that one. Especially because I'll be reading it with my daughter. And my daughter is not a novel reader. She reads a lot of manga. But novels, not so much. So when I told her that I wanted to read the Heroes of Olympus series, and we kind of talked about, rereading Percy Jackson, I was very surprised that she was kind of open to doing that and to reading along with me. And I'll be glad to do it because we don't get the chance to do that often. We read a lot of manga together, especially because of the manga club, but we don't read any novels together. And so to be able to read together and discuss together is going to be a great time for me. So I'm really, really looking forward to that. And then the last series that I'd like to start in 2022 is the Lincoln Rhyme series by Jeffrey Deaver. The first book in this series is The Bone Collector, and I do own a copy of most of the books in this series. We watched the TV show on Hulu a couple years ago, I think it was now. Really enjoyed it. Unfortunately, the TV show got canceled. And so I need to read the books because I really enjoyed what was going on with all of the investigators and seeing how Lincoln's mind worked and investigating the serial killers. Serial killer mysteries is definitely something I enjoy reading. I don't read a lot of them because I tend to read cozy mysteries instead, but I think it's time that I revisit many of the more gruesome mystery series that I have started, like the Karen Vale series, which I talked about earlier. And so, yes, those are the 22 series I'd like to read from in 2022. Let me know down in the comments below if you have read any of these series and what you thought of them. Or if you're thinking about reading any of them in the near future, I'd really love to know that as well. If nothing else, and you would just like to let me know you were here, if you could leave me a skull emoji down in the comments below for The Bone Collector, that would be greatly appreciated and would really help me out, and that will do it for me today. So I hope you're all doing great. I hope you're all safe and healthy, And until next time, take care and smile always. Bye!